I'd love for you just to take a second and unpack, how are you seeing this? How are you seeing what happens when people decide that they want to be their own Savior and Lord and teacher? What's the outcome of that, and how are you seeing that?
I mean, I can speak on just what we do. So again, the Dragonfly Home operates as a relief and restoration center for victims of human trafficking. So that means sex and labor trafficking.
Yes.
I'll specifically speak on sex trafficking today. But if we look at what the law defines as sex trafficking, it under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, there has to be that element of commercial sex. So that means that something is being exchanged or bought in exchange for something else. So there's that like exchange of goods, whether that's drugs, money, like other types of things of value. And then there also has to be those elements of force, fraud, and coercion. And so just to set the stage of like what has to be in that, or if the victim is under the age of 18, it's automatically sex trafficking. So there actually doesn't have to be those elements of force, fraud, and coercion. I think it's important to say that sex trafficking it does not discriminate. So I think we typically in culture see that it affects young girls, or it affects people of vulnerable populations. And while we do see that a lot, I think it's important to know that like any person could happen to anyone. I think it's also important to say that like it does happen here in Oklahoma. So a lot of people think like this is something that's happening over in Europe or over in Honduras or in India. It actually happens here in Oklahoma. So I was explaining earlier that the Dragonfly Home actually mostly serves clients who were born in Oklahoma, raised in Oklahoma, and trafficked in Oklahoma.
Wow.
And so we still do serve other people, but that is mostly what we see. I think to come around to that is a lot of people believe that issue happens because of the highway system. So we hear a lot about I-40, I-35 crossing, and that is like the reason we're having the sex trafficking issue. But I think like every state and every city has highways, so that can't be the reason that we're having this issue. I think the reason is because there's a demand in Oklahoma for illicit sex. So 99% of purchasers are men. A few are women. And we see that people are just willing to buy this and to exploit people. We also see that a lot of the people that we serve, if not all of them, were in relationship with the person that trafficked them, sometimes purchased them. So there's this like idea in the media right now that like people are being abducted from Hobby Lobby parking lots and Walmart parking lots. We've actually never seen that at the Dragonfly Home. So we've always seen it someone that the victim knew or the survivor knew. So that could look like a mom or a dad needs to pay rent or needs to feed their drug addiction, and so they will sell their child. That can also look like someone portraying themselves as a boyfriend, pursuing a relationship with the young girl, and then that's not actually what ends up happening. It's not actually a relationship. It's actually exploiting that individual and selling them for sex. So I think it's important to know that is a result of what sexual brokenness can look like. And that can start off in a lot of areas depending on who the person is. Every situation is different. Every trafficker is different. Every survivor of human trafficking is different. So it's important to know that it's not necessarily in a box, but it does not discriminate, though a lot of traffickers will prey on vulnerability, such as what I talked about earlier. Parents not educating their children, kids not knowing what is right and what is not, like how to be treated, what healthy like relationship looks like. They don't know these things, so traffickers know that, and they will prey off of those vulnerabilities. And anyone could be, and that can be men or women, are affected by that as well, boys and girls. So that is something that I see all the time. We are really busy at the Dragonfly Home, so there's not ever like a slow day. This is a need, and this is happening in Oklahoma, and I think but there's definitely hope, and like it is becoming more of a term. I think more people understand human trafficking nowadays than they did like even 5 years ago. So